Hi, my name is Mindy Karstensen, and this is my educational technology final project for Morningside College. The topic of my project is supporting teachers to meet the needs of diversity in their classrooms. My problem statement is student-centered differentiated instruction is morally imperative in order to meet the needs of all of our students, but educators question how. We will find the time, the support, and the confidence we need to meet the needs of anywhere from 20 to 150 students. Um, the support and the confidence piece, teachers who are given a new initiative often are not given the time to develop the confidence in adding a new initiative to their classroom. And also, as far as support, administration is reported by many teachers through the research that I read. Um, Oftentimes, administration was not supportive of teachers trying new things in their classroom. Sometimes their classrooms would look like they were unmanaged, or even they were requiring teachers. Their focus as administrators were standardized test scores, and so um, as you'll see in my presentation, sometimes initiatives um, always ended up focusing on one demographic of the classroom. As far as finding the time, this came from our textbook for the class. Teachers have more than 200 communications with adults or students in an hour. Multiply that times 6 hours a day during a school year that consists of 180 days. And that just that communications, the emails, the phone calls, the meetings, um, just that communication piece takes so much. That's not even planning unless you're planning with other adults and things like that. So I had three solutions to my problem. Peer mentors was the first one. Peer mentors have been around since people helping people. But in the last couple decades, education system decided to make it part of hiring a new teacher. Veteran teachers were assigned to new teachers, paid maybe a little bit more, and it was supposed to be a non-threatening way for new teachers to get assistance. Peer mentors would observe, they would um, reflect, they would plan, they would come up with ideas with the new teachers to help give them a little bit more confidence and support. They did that to maintain some teachers coming into the more teachers coming into the profession because they had a high rate of teachers leaving the profession after a first year or two. Um, in an article, Peer Coaching Improves Classroom Differentiation by Laz Spires, Neumeister, Adams, and Pearson 2008. They indicated that, or they supported the idea that teachers are in fact better teachers, provide better differentiation, and feel more supported and confident when they are assigned a peer mentor. My second option was to remove differentiation from the classroom requirements entirely. Not everybody believes in differentiation. In fact, there was an article by Stone in 2018 that, not quoting it, but basically said there was a lot of hot air behind the idea of differentiation. After a study of multiple classrooms, they found that teachers were only differentiating for the lower half of some classrooms, leaving the upper level of students doing worksheets, or when they were done with their work, I think it was talked about that they were doing coloring pages to fill up their day because the lower level students needed so much more support in order to pass the standardized assessments. that differentiation really wasn't working. It was more dumbing down the education for the upper level students. Also, John Hattie is a researcher who studies what teachers do in the classroom and gives them an effect size, like how much is this going to affect the students in the classroom. I tend to rely on John Hattie's work for my own teaching profession because it makes sense to me to be able to say, here's 100 things, and these are the things that are going to make the biggest difference with your students. Um, so he does not list differentiated instruction, but he does list individualized instruction. And he gives individualized instruction an effect size of 0.23. In terms for my brain to understand that, out of 138 things that teachers can do to improve student learning in their classroom, individualized instruction falls at 100. There are 99 other things a teacher can do that is a better use of their time, according to John Hattie, um, to get to make the learning environment best for the students in the classroom. So the technology part of part two would be then teachers would then be required to do some research on their own on those different effect sizes, like John Hattie has self-report grading, self-reporting grades as one of his top 5. Student portfolios of work would be part of that. So teachers would then have to actually take more of their time and research the best ways to produce that or bring those things into their classroom to get a better outcome for the more bang for their buck, more time, more more effect out of their time that they're putting into their students. My third one was build a blended learning educational community. Blended learning is written about. Most of the stuff that I found of blended learning was by Catlin Tucker. I I referenced her a couple of different times in my paper, but Catlin Tucker has YouTube videos and has done research papers and written books about blended learning and the benefits. The two that the ones that I hear her talk about the most are flipped classrooms and a whole class rotation stations. Um, the theory behind it is it gives kids choice and voice. And those are some of the things that John Hattie also, the portfolio, the self-reporting, things like that, making the learning, giving the students power over their own learning has a much um, bigger effect size, according to John Hattie, in this particular choice. The educational community part is the part of teachers helping teachers. Instead of just one teacher assigned to it, it would be multiple teachers working on the same thing and producing something of value that all the teachers in the community can use. In the case that I have, it's, gosh, there's 8 of us that teach 6th grade, so our educational community is quite big when we're all working together. So that was my third choice. And the blended learning model, the station rotations or the whole class rotations, usually one of those rotations, at least one, if not more, involves some sort of technology for teachers to use with their students. And the flipped classroom also involves technology because students are either reading something or watching something to build their background knowledge at home before they come to school and meet with their teacher to add on to the background knowledge that hopefully that they gained from their class, from their homework at home. So the discussion part was, okay, these are all really great things that, and there's support behind all of these three options, but what's the best option? And as far as the peer mentoring, um, the same article, Peer Coaching Improves Classroom Differentiation, during the interviews, teachers still talked about the struggle of time and having their own classrooms and still trying to help somebody else with their classroom. And also, again, the administrator expectations of focusing on the lower level students who are not passing standardized assessments really monopolized their time to, differentiation is supposed to happen for all students, and it was really only happening for the lower level students. Removing differentiation from the classroom, I kind of giggle about that. Um, uh, Differentiation has deep roots in education, goes back to theories from Vygotsky and constructivism. Um, I don't think teachers can ignore cultural and economic backgrounds, and it doesn't list this on my slide, but or ignore the fact that when we get students, they're all at different places in their educational journey, and still make those connect. We can't ignore that stuff and still make the connections that we need for students to be able to learn. Their culture, their economic background, where they are at their learning journey is part of who they are, and I just don't think that removing differentiation from a classroom is a very realistic idea. So the one I chose, of course, is the third one, and that was to build an educational blended learning community. And I chose that one because it still has the mentoring, it still has people helping people become the best teachers they can be, and giving them the the confidence that they need to, when they try blended learning, there's that support system there. And also the community part, the learning community part, um, takes some of those teacher requirements, there's some of those teacher communications, and puts it into one ball part of the day, as you'll see by my scheduling plan, so that time isn't being wasted; it's being focused and made for the best outcome. So my schedule is as follows. This is an ongoing schedule. It's not a one-day PD. In fact, as you go through each phase, the goal at the end is to have a quarter or semester, depending on your school, um, ready to go, a blended learning uh, part of your year ready to go, and not just a single lesson, but if everybody's working on the same quarter, all 8 of us teachers working on the same quarter, um, we should be ready to take off with blended learning from day one, and we're ready through October. So then when we have our classrooms and we have our come together meetings, we're starting this. This process is happening before school starts, and then coming back together while we're in school to work on the next section. And every year you do this, it would just get easier and easier. But the phases are not meant to go through 4 phases and then just stop. They're meant to continue on through the entire year. So my conclusion, I really learned a lot by going through this, and I was really interested in blended learning. Um, I do still think that we're going to struggle with teachers falling into their old habits because we get frustrated and our time gets monopolized, and there's not a lot we can do about it. But I'm hoping that that community piece of my solution will pull us through that and keep us going through the entire year and keep that blended learning pattern going.